Imagine a restaurant so exclusive, its name whispered with reverence. A place where culinary perfection was not just promised, but expected. Now imagine that gleaming facade hiding secrets, dark truths that could sicken its elite patrons. This is the story of how an unassuming health inspector exposed a culinary god's dirty empire, and he never saw her coming. Meet Chef Antoine Dubois, the celebrated maestro behind Fleur Sauvage. In his bustling kitchen, Dubois moved like a conductor, his sharp commands slicing through the clatter of pans and the sizzle of fine ingredients. "Faster! This soufflé demands precision, not hesitation," he barked, his eyes scanning for any imperfection. Isabella Rossi, the restaurant manager, glided through the controlled chaos, nodding deferentially to his every demand. Dubois was a culinary titan, adorned with Michelin stars and glowing reviews, his ego as expansive as his reputation. He believed his genius made him untouchable, his word law within these hallowed walls. Now, step into the quiet, organized world of Dr. Lena Caldwell, a senior health inspector for the city. Unlike Dubois, Lena didn't crave the spotlight. She sat at her desk, a beacon of calm in a modern office, meticulously reviewing reports. Every detail, every digit, every nuance was scrutinized with an almost surgical precision. Another flawless quarter, Lena. Marcus Thorne, her supervisor, commented, leaning against her doorframe. "Your team's efficiency is unmatched. You catch things others miss." Lena merely offered a brief, focused smile. Her reputation wasn't built on accolades, but on an unwavering commitment to public safety, a quiet authority that spoke volumes. Later that afternoon, Marcus reappeared, a cryptic email on his tablet. "Lena, we just received an anonymous tip about Fleur Sauvage." Lena raised an eyebrow, her expression unreadable. "Anonymous? Usually those are just disgruntled former employees or competitors." Marcus nodded. "True. But this one, it's vague, yet unsettling. Mentions corners cut and ignored protocols. Nothing specific enough for an immediate official inspection." Lena tapped her pen thoughtfully. Her skepticism was a professional shield, but her keen sense of duty, honed by years of protecting the public, quickly took over. A preliminary, discreet visit, she decided, as a regular diner, just to observe. That evening, Lena transformed her apartment into a command center. She pulled up Fleur Sauvage online, poring over glittering reviews and public health records. All spotless, nothing publicly amiss. But Lena knew appearances could be deceiving. She selected a simple, elegant dark dress, unassuming yet refined, perfect for blending into the restaurant's opulent ambiance. This wasn't about flashy displays. It was about observation. As she meticulously laid out her strategy, her internal monologue was clear. Fairness first, always. But if there's a threat to public health, my instincts won't be ignored. No matter how many stars a chef has. She was ready. The grand entrance of Fleur Sauvage gleamed under the soft glow of designer sconces, a testament to its elite status. Dr. Lena Caldwell stepped inside, not in her official uniform, but in a tailored black dress that whispered elegance without shouting for attention. Her presence was understated, designed to blend, to observe. The host, a young man with a practiced, somewhat weary smile, scanned her quickly. He offered a polite but lukewarm greeting, accustomed to more ostentatious displays of wealth. "A table for one, madame?" he inquired, his eyes briefly flicking over her. Lena nodded, her gaze already sweeping the opulent space. She was led to a discreet corner table, perfectly positioned. From here she could see everything, yet remain largely unseen. The fox was in the henhouse, and the game had just begun. Settling into her seat, Lena began her meticulous assessment. The white linen tablecloth was pristine, the silverware gleamed, and the crystal glasses sparkled. On the surface, Fleur Sauvage was a picture of perfection, yet Lena's trained senses began to pick at the edges of that facade. She noted the hurried, almost frantic movements of a busboy in the periphery, a slight tremor in his hand as he cleared a table. Then, it was a subtle, almost imperceptible odor, not of stale food, but something faintly chemical, lingering beneath the rich aroma of truffles and roasting meat. Was it a cleaning agent used too liberally, or something more concerning? Her mind, a finely tuned instrument, filed away each detail. This wasn't just a meal. It was an initial forensic examination. Suddenly, a heavy kitchen door swung open, revealing a fleeting, chaotic tableau. For a split second, Lena saw Chef Antoine Dubois, his face contorted in a furious snarl, berating a young line cook. The air was thick with tension, and Lena's eyes darted to the details. A stainless steel counter cluttered with what looked like raw ingredients dangerously close to prepared plates, a gloveless hand wiping a brow. The door slammed shut with a sharp thud, cutting off the scene as quickly as it had appeared. The glimpse was brief, blurry, but intensely disturbing. It confirmed a suspicion Lena had been cultivating. Behind the polished dining room, there was a disquieting disregard for order. A clear sign that an official visit wasn't just warranted, it was imperative. Later, Chef Dubois himself emerged from the kitchen, radiating an almost palpable arrogance. He performed a grand tour of the dining room, his booming laugh echoing as he greeted important guests with effusive charm. His eyes, however, were quick to dismiss those he deemed less significant. As he approached Lena's table, his gaze swept over her, a flicker of condescension in his eyes. He paused, barely a perfunctory nod. "Enjoy your meal," he uttered, the words a hollow formality, devoid of genuine engagement. He moved on, his back to her, already forgetting her existence. Lena watched him go, her expression unreadable, but a quiet, unyielding resolve hardened within her. He had judged her by her cover. He wouldn't make that mistake twice. Back in the quiet sanctuary of her apartment that evening, Lena meticulously reviewed her mental notes. The lingering chemical scent, the frantic staff, the fleeting glimpse of kitchen chaos, and Dubois' dismissive, arrogant demeanor. Each inconsistency, however minor, now resonated with the anonymous tip that had first piqued her interest. The polished facade of Fleur Sauvage was cracking, revealing faint but undeniable glimpses of something unsettling beneath. This wasn't just about a potential health violation. It was about an entrenched culture of disregard. Lena knew with absolute certainty what had to be done. First thing in the morning, an official, unannounced health inspection would be scheduled. The true curtain was about to rise. The next morning, the sterile hum of the health department office felt a world away from the opulent dining room of Fleur Sauvage. Dr. Lena Caldwell stood before Marcus Thorne, her request for an unannounced inspection already on his desk. Marcus, her supervisor and a man who respected her thoroughness, still harbored a flicker of apprehension. "Lena, you know Fleur Sauvage isn't just any restaurant. Chef Dubois has friends in high places, political connections. An unannounced inspection could stir up a hornet's nest." Lena met his gaze, unflinching. "My concern, Marcus, is public health, not political backlash. If there's an issue, it needs to be addressed, regardless of who owns the establishment." Her resolve was a quiet force, reminding them both of the true stakes. Back in her office, Lena didn't just wait for approval. She dove deeper. She cross-referenced old records, scrolled through obscure supplier forms, and even dug into archived local news reports. Publicly, Fleur Sauvage was spotless, its reputation gleaming. But Lena knew better than to trust surface appearances. What secrets could a restaurant, so determined to project perfection, be hiding? She unearthed a single minor complaint from years ago, a customer claiming undercooked poultry, swiftly dismissed as competitors' slander by the restaurant, and quickly swept under the rug. It was a faint whisper from the past, but for Lena, it was a pattern. Another thread to pull, solidifying her suspicion that Dubois' arrogance wasn't a recent development. Later that afternoon, Lena found herself on a park bench, observing families enjoying their lunch. Children laughed, parents chatted, all blissfully unaware of the meticulous, often invisible work that kept their food safe. It was moments like these that grounded her. This wasn't about a personal vendetta against a dismissive chef. This was about protecting these very people. The gravity of a potential health hazard in a high-profile restaurant, one serving hundreds nightly, settled heavily on her. Her commitment solidified. This mission was about public safety, about integrity, about ensuring that no one's meal came at the cost of their health. The moment of truth arrived. Lena, now in her crisp official uniform, approached the delivery entrance of Fleur Sauvage mid-afternoon. The glamour of the front dining room was a distant memory here, replaced by the mundane reality of industrial bins and clanking crates. A delivery driver, wrestling a pallet of produce, paused, surprised to see an official health department vehicle. "Inspector?" he asked, pointing towards a service door. "Never seen one come through here before." Lena offered a polite but firm nod. She clutched her clipboard, her official ID badge prominently displayed. Ready. She was ready to confront the establishment, not as a customer, but as the quiet authority they had so carelessly dismissed. Stepping inside, the air immediately felt different. A faint, cloying sweetness mixed with something less pleasant. Lena's trained eye swept across the receiving area. Her gaze sharpened. There it was. Improperly stored perishables, sitting too long at room temperature, and unlabeled containers that could hold anything from yesterday's sauce to an allergen nightmare. A junior kitchen staff member, startled by her presence, tried to casually block her view, mumbling about just reorganizing. Lena didn't miss a beat. She calmly but firmly took out her pen, her movements deliberate. The staff member's nervous fidgeting and darting eyes confirmed her suspicions. The inspection had barely begun, and already the cracks in Fleur Sauvage's gleaming facade were showing. The main kitchen of Fleur Sauvage was a symphony of controlled chaos, a ballet of sharp knives and sizzling pans. But that carefully orchestrated dance faltered the moment Dr. Lena Caldwell stepped in, her sensible shoes making hardly a sound on the tiled floor. She wasn't dressed in her unassuming customer attire now. The crisp navy uniform of the city health department, complete with her official ID badge clipped to her lapel, announced her presence with undeniable authority. Isabella Rossi, the restaurant manager, was mid-sentence, directing a line cook, when her eyes landed on Lena. The smile on Isabella's face, usually so composed, instantly dissolved into a mask of startled apprehension. "Isabella Rossi?" Lena's voice was calm, clear, cutting through the kitchen's din. "Dr. Lena Caldwell, City Health Department. This is an unannounced inspection." Lena extended her official credentials, allowing Isabella a moment to process the stark reality. Isabella's gaze darted from the badge to Lena's unwavering eyes, then around the bustling kitchen, as if searching for an escape route or a hidden camera. Her hands, which moments ago had gestured with confidence, now clasped nervously in front of her. An inspection?" Isabella stammered, her voice a reedy whisper against the clatter. "But we just had one a few months ago. Everything was perfect." Lena offered a small, professional nod. "Regulations permit unscheduled visits. My purpose is to conduct a comprehensive assessment of Fleur Sauvage's adherence to all public health and safety standards. This will include all food storage, preparation, and serving areas, as well as employee hygiene protocols." Her words were a statement of fact, not a negotiation. Isabella gulped, her composure visibly fraying. The battle for the restaurant's pristine image had just begun. The tension in the kitchen had barely settled when a new, more imposing presence arrived. Chef Antoine Dubois burst through the double doors, his starched white chef's coat billowing behind him. His face, usually a canvas of artistic intensity, was now a mask of profound annoyance. He had clearly been alerted to the intrusion, and he was not pleased. "Isabella, what in God's name is going on here?" His voice boomed, silencing the remaining kitchen chatter. He took in Lena's uniform, her clipboard, and Isabella's visibly distressed face. His eyes, sharp and judgmental, narrowed on Lena. Isabella, shrinking under his gaze, tried to explain. "Chef, this is Dr. Caldwell from the health department. She's here for an unscheduled inspection." Dubois scoffed, a dismissive sound that dripped with condescension. He didn't even look at Isabella. His full, arrogant attention was fixed on Lena, as if she were an unwelcome speck of dirt on his immaculate kitchen floor. "An inspection? Now?" "This is Fleur Sauvage, mademoiselle. We don't do unscheduled inspections. Our reputation precedes us. Perhaps there's been a mistake, a mix-up with a lesser establishment?" Lena met his dismissive stare with a calm, unwavering gaze. Her posture remained straight, her voice level. "There is no mistake, Chef Dubois. My credentials are in order, and my purpose is clear. My presence here is entirely within my authority and jurisdiction." She didn't raise her voice, but her words carried the weight of undeniable truth, a stark contrast to Dubois' bluster. This was no ordinary customer he could dismiss, and this was no ordinary inspector he could intimidate. The antagonist was face to face with his challenger, promising an explosive clash. Dubois, unaccustomed to being challenged, forced a strained smile, a calculated attempt to regain control. Of course! Authority! I understand! But surely, you must want to see our smorgasbord first, yes? Our magnificent show kitchen, where the magic truly happens." He gestured grandly towards the gleaming, glass-enclosed area visible to the dining room, a pristine stage of culinary artistry. "Our show kitchen is a marvel," he boasted, ushering Lena forward with a practiced guiding hand. "Spotless, efficient, a testament to Parisian elegance and hygiene. We use only the finest, most advanced equipment. You won't find a single speck out of place, I assure you." He puffed out his chest, clearly believing this superficial display would impress her, perhaps even deter her from digging deeper. He was attempting to control the narrative, to present a polished facade that belied any hidden truths. Lena paused, her eyes subtly scanning the gleaming surfaces, the perfectly aligned utensils, the unblemished stainless steel. It was indeed immaculate, a performance for the public eye. She offered a polite but firm smile. "I appreciate the tour, chef. It's certainly impressive. However, my inspection must cover time malade as operational areas of the establishment, not just those visible to your patrons. We'll begin with your receiving and storage areas, and then proceed to the main prep and cooking stations, including those that are less magnificent." Her subtle eye movements and quiet redirection highlighted her cleverness, showing Dubois' transparent attempts to hide the truth. She was not to be swayed by mere appearances. Dubois' forced smile tightened, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. He led Lena and a now ringing Isabella deeper into the labyrinthine back of house, his steps growing heavier. They eventually reached the walk-in freezer and refrigerator units, humming with a low, mechanical drone. As Lena stepped inside, her eyes immediately went to the temperature gauges. She pulled out her own calibrated thermometer, checking against the restaurant's readings. A subtle frown creased her brow. "Chef," Lena stated, her voice devoid of accusation, purely factual, "this unit is currently reading 45 degrees Fahrenheit. The standard for safe cold storage is 40 degrees or below." She pointed to a shelf where several containers of prepped sauces sat. "And these items," she continued, "are unlabeled, making it impossible to ascertain their preparation date or contents." She calmly clicked her pen, making a detailed note on her clipboard. Dubois scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "A minor oversight, a momentary fluctuation. The door was perhaps open a moment too long. And the labels? Mere rustic charm, mademoiselle. We know what is what. It is all fresh, I assure you." His defensive, arrogant retort hung in the cold air. But Lena's gaze remained fixed on the thermometer, on the unlabeled containers, on the undeniable evidence. This was the first major crack in his facade, concrete evidence of wrongdoing, validating Lena's efforts and fueling viewer anger at Dubois. Lena proceeded systematically, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to Dubois' growing agitation. She moved to a back prep station, tucked away from the main thoroughfare of the kitchen. Here, the carefully maintained illusion of La Fleur Sauvage began to truly unravel. On a cutting board, raw chicken was being prepped perilously close to a bowl of washed, ready-to-eat salad greens. Unwashed utensils lay haphazardly, and a waste bin overflowed, attracting a faint, sickly sweet odor. Lena's expression remained professional, but a flicker of disgust crossed her eyes. She pulled out her camera, the flash popping silently as she documented the egregious cross-contamination risk, the dirty surfaces, the improper waste disposal. "Chef Dubois," Lena stated, her voice quieter now but firmer than ever, "this station presents multiple critical health code violations. The risk of cross-contamination here is immense. This entire area must be immediately sanitized, and staff retrained on basic food safety protocols." Dubois' dismissive attitude finally cracked, his face flushed with thinly veiled anger. "This is absurd! My kitchen is impeccable! You are looking for problems where none exist. This is an insult to my art, to my reputation. His voice rose, laced with fury. But Lena ignored his protests, her camera clicking, her pen steadily documenting the grime, the unwashed utensils, and the chef's escalating rage. She was uncovering a shocking violation, increasing the stakes and making viewers anticipate Dubois' next move. Dr. Lena Caldwell stood before a heavy, locked door in a dimly lit corner of the kitchen, her gaze unwavering. "Chef Dubois," she stated, her voice calm but firm. "Health Code Section 4.1.c mandates access to all food storage areas. I need this opened." Chef Antoine Dubois, his face already flushed with irritation, physically positioned himself in front of the door, his arms crossed. "This is a private area, Dr. Caldwell. Personal effects. Nothing to do with the kitchen operation." Isabella Rossi shifted nervously, her eyes darting between Lena and her increasingly agitated boss. Lena simply raised an eyebrow, her pen poised over her clipboard. "Understood. Then I'll have to note, obstruction of inspection, a Class A violation in my report. That carries a substantial fine, and, depending on the circumstances, could lead to immediate closure." Dubois' jaw clenched, his bravado warring with the stark reality of Lena's authority. He desperately tried to bar her way, but Lena's steady, professional demeanor was an immovable force. What was he hiding behind that locked door? The answer, Lena knew, would be far from palatable. With a frustrated grunt, Dubois finally produced a key, his hands trembling slightly as he fumbled with the lock. The heavy door groaned open, revealing not a private closet, but a hidden pantry, dark, damp, and utterly disgusting. A wave of stale, sickly sweet air hit Lena. Her flashlight beam cut through the gloom, revealing mounds of severely expired ingredients. Bags of flour crawling with weevils, unlabeled containers oozing questionable liquids, and, most damningly, a scattering of rodent droppings across shelves alongside unsafe industrial cleaning chemicals stored next to food items. Isabella gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with a horror that finally broke through her practiced deference. "Chef Dubois," Lena stated, her voice clipped with professional disgust, "this is not merely a violation. This is a public health hazard of the highest order." Dubois sputtered, It's for emergencies. Old stock. Nobody uses it." But his desperate denials were drowned out by the undeniable evidence. The gravity of the situation was now undeniable, a silent promise of the ruin to come. Dubois, his face a mask of barely contained fury, abruptly grabbed Lena's arm, his grip surprisingly strong, and pulled her towards his opulent, red velvet-lined office. "Listen here, Dr. Caldwell," he hissed, slamming the door behind them, isolating them from the kitchen staff. "You don't understand who you're dealing with. My restaurant, my name, it's connected. Influential people. City council, the mayor, even the health commissioner himself. You think you can just walk in here and ruin me?" He leaned over her, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "There are ways to make problems disappear, Dr. Caldwell. Careers vanish. People lose their jobs. Especially people who get too ambitious, too visible. A little health inspector getting a bit too big for her britches? You'd be surprised how quickly you can be transferred to filing old papers in a basement." Lena met his gaze, her posture unyielding. She heard the threat, clear as day, but her expression remained calm, her resolve hardening. She would not break. Lena calmly extracted herself from Dubois' office, her mind already shifting to strategy. She found a quiet corner near the staff entrance, out of earshot of the lingering kitchen staff, and pulled out her phone, dialing Marcus Thorne. "Marcus," she began, her voice low and professional. "It's Lena. I'm at Fleur Sauvage." The anonymous tip was accurate, and then some. "We've got severe temperature abuse, cross-contamination, unsanitary prep areas, and a hidden storage room that's a biohazard." She detailed the violations, precise and factual, omitting Dubois' personal threats. This wasn't about her, it was about public health. "I'll be compiling the full report tonight. This is going to require immediate action." Marcus's voice came back, tinged with concern. "Understood, Lena. That's worse than I imagined. Are you all right? Do you need backup now?" "I'm fine. she assured him, a slight burden evident in her voice. "Just wanted to give you the heads up. I'll handle the rest." She ended the call, her resolve solidifying. She was not alone, but this battle she would finish on her own terms. In a private staff area just off the bustling kitchen, Isabella Rossi paced, wringing her hands. The hushed whispers of the kitchen staff filtered in. "Did you see that storage room? She's taking pictures of everything," each one a hammer blow to her already fragile composure. Isabella had seen Dubois cut corners for years, had even enabled some of it out of fear and a need to keep her job at a prestigious establishment. But Lena Caldwell's unwavering professionalism, her calm, meticulous documentation of undeniable filth and danger, had shaken something deep within her. She pictured the rodent droppings, the mold, the expired food that could easily sicken hundreds. Her loyalty to Dubois, once absolute, now felt like a suffocating shroud. Was her job worth this? Was her silence worth risking public health? The restaurant's elegant facade suddenly felt like a prison, trapping her in a web of deceit. A choice was forming, a difficult, terrifying choice, but one that felt increasingly inevitable. The air in the kitchen of La Fleur Sauvage crackled with a new, frantic energy. Chef Antoine Dubois, his face slick with sweat, barked orders like a desperate general. "Clean this! Move that! Quickly, you fools!" He pointed wildly, urging staff to hastily wipe down counters, shove unlabeled containers into hidden corners, and dispose of anything that looked remotely incriminating. Isabella Rossi watched, her stomach churning. The frantic scrambling of the kitchen staff, their nervous murmurs, created a chaotic spectacle of guilt. Every hurried movement, every whispered instruction, was a desperate attempt to erase the truth. But Dr. Lena Caldwell observed it all. From a quiet distance, her eyes, sharp and unwavering, missed nothing. Her pen moved steadily across her clipboard, calmly documenting every panicked attempt at obstruction. Dubois was digging his own grave, and Lena was simply making sure the measurements were precise. Lena moved towards the main prep area, her gaze cutting through the frantic activity. And there it was, a critical health hazard in plain sight, egregious and undeniable. Raw poultry, still glistening with traces of blood, rested directly beside a vibrant, ready-to-eat salad mix, a textbook example of cross-contamination. This wasn't a minor oversight. This was an imminent public health threat. Lena's voice, though calm, cut through the kitchen's din with the force of an unyielding blade. "Stop work on this station immediately," she declared, her hand firm as she issued the order. "This is an imminent health hazard." Dubois, who had been hovering, exploded. "What? A hazard? It's French cuisine, not a sterile lab. You cannot dictate my kitchen." His face contorted, but Lena's authority was absolute, unyielding to his theatrical rage. The line had been drawn. Humiliation burned in Dubois' eyes, quickly morphing into a venomous fury. He stalked towards Lena, his voice rising to a roar that echoed through the entire kitchen, even reaching the ears of some dining staff who peered in, their eyes wide with shock and fear. "You think you can ruin me? My reputation? You will regret this, madam. I have connections, influence. Your career will be over by morning." He jabbed a finger at her, his face a mottled red. It was a public threat, undeniable and ugly. But Lena Caldwell did not flinch. She simply met his enraged gaze with her own, calm and unwavering. Her expression was unreadable, but deep within, her resolve solidified, hardening like steel. He had crossed a line, not just professionally, but personally. And the person he had just threatened was about to show him the true cost of disrespect. Isabella Rossi retreated to a quiet hallway, the echoes of Dubois' outburst still ringing in her ears, his words a chilling confirmation of his desperation. Her hands trembled, clutching her head as if to silence the warring voices within her. Loyalty to Chef Antoine Dubois, the man who had given her a chance, battled fiercely with the ethical responsibility she felt, the horrifying reality of the violations Lena had uncovered. She paced, a caged animal, the elegant decor of La Fleur Sauvage now feeling less like luxury and more like a gilded trap. What would happen to them all? To her? The restaurant was a ship taking on water, and Dubois was willing to sacrifice everyone to save himself. Isabella knew, with a sickening certainty, that she couldn't stand by any longer. Ignoring Dubois, who now glowered from a distance, muttering under his breath, Dr. Lena Caldwell moved with renewed purpose. Every improperly stored item, every unsanitary surface, every expired label was meticulously documented. Her camera flashed, capturing irrefutable evidence, each click a nail in Fleur Sauvage's coffin. She double-checked her notes, ensuring every detail was accurate, every citation precise. Lena knew her case was airtight. The threats, the arrogance, the desperate attempts at concealment, they only added weight to the mountain of proof she had accumulated. The time for decisive action was not just near, it was imminent. Justice, swift and undeniable, was about to be served. The city lights twinkled beyond Dr. Lena Caldwell's office window, but her gaze remained fixed on the glowing screen before her. Hours had passed since her return from Fleur Sauvage. Hours Lena had spent in a meticulous, almost surgical compilation of evidence. Each photograph, each scribbled note, each health code violation she had documented was now being categorized, cross-referenced, and laid bare in an undeniable report. She moved with quiet precision, her fingers flying across the keyboard, building a case as solid as granite. This wasn't just about a restaurant, it was about public safety, about the integrity of the system, and about a chef's arrogant disregard for both. Her focus was unwavering, driven by a deep sense of righteous purpose. The truth, she knew, was a formidable weapon. The next morning, Lena sat at her desk, reviewing the final draft of her report when her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. She answered cautiously. A nervous, hushed voice on the other end identified herself as Isabella Rossi. The restaurant manager, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and conviction, requested a private meeting. Isabella confessed Dubois' long-standing history of cutting corners, of dismissing safety concerns, of covering up issues that went far beyond what Lena had observed. It was a torrent of grim details, delivered with a palpable sense of relief. Lena listened, her expression calm and professional, carefully taking Isabella's statement, assuring her of confidentiality and protection. This insider testimony wasn't just helpful, it was the final, devastating piece of the puzzle. In the austere health department meeting room, Lena stood before Marcus Thorne and the department head, a projector displaying her damning findings. Her voice was clear, calm, and authoritative as she laid out the evidence. The temperature abuse, the cross-contamination, the rodent droppings, Isabella's corroborating testimony. Marcus Thorne, his face grim, emphasized the severity of the violations and the undeniable public health risk. The department head, a man known for his cautious approach to politically sensitive cases, initially hesitated, his gaze sweeping over the images of filth juxtaposed against Fleur Sauvage's opulent facade. But the evidence was irrefutable. The public trust was at stake. With a heavy sigh, he looked at Lena. "Dr. Caldwell," he said, his voice grave, "you are authorized to proceed with an immediate, full shutdown." Meanwhile, back at Fleur Sauvage, Chef Antoine Dubois strutted through his bustling dining room that evening, a picture of arrogant triumph. Days had passed since the health inspector's visit, and he hadn't heard a word. His veiled threats, he concluded, had worked. The little inspector, whoever she was, had backed down. He beamed at his VIP guests, accepting their lavish praise, basking in the warm glow of his perceived victory. Unseen by him, Isabella Rossi watched from the kitchen entrance, a knot of fear in her stomach, but also a grim, almost defiant, satisfaction. She knew what was coming. She knew the storm that was about to break over Dubois' head, and though she dreaded the fallout, she knew it was deserved. The calm before the storm. Hours later, in a sterile briefing room at the health department, Lena stood before her assembled team. A detailed map of Fleur Sauvage was projected behind her, key areas highlighted. Her voice, devoid of emotion but thick with resolve, outlined the precise steps for the restaurant shutdown. Legal notices, media protocols, staff management, every contingency was covered. "Remember," she stated, her eyes sweeping over the determined faces of her team, "this is about public safety. We act with professionalism, integrity, and according to protocol. No theatrics, no personal vendettas, just the law." A solemn determination filled the room. The moment of reckoning for Chef Dubois was no longer a question of if, but when. Imagine the hushed elegance of a Michelin-starred restaurant, bathed in the soft glow of a perfect evening service. Diners, dressed in their finest, clink glasses, lost in the symphony of exquisite cuisine. Now imagine that serenity shattered. Dr. Lena Caldwell, her posture radiating quiet authority, stepped through the grand entrance of Fleur Sauvage. Flanked by a focused team from the health department, her entrance wasn't merely an arrival, it was an interruption. The clinking glasses ceased. Whispers died. The entire dining room fell into an unnerving silence as every eye turned. At a prime table, Chef Antoine Dubois, mid-boast to a city councilman, chuckled, his face a picture of smug satisfaction. Then he turned. His smile, once so arrogant, faltered. The color drained from his face as his eyes locked onto Lena. He knew. Lena didn't break her stride. She moved with purpose, her gaze unwavering as she approached Dubois' table. The silence was so profound, you could hear the soft click of her sensible heels on the polished floor. She stopped directly before him, her clipboard held firmly. "Chef Dubois," she began, her voice calm yet resonating with undeniable authority. "I am Dr. Lena Caldwell from the City Health Department. By the power vested in me, I am here to inform you that Fleur Sauvage is hereby ordered to cease all operations immediately." She held up the official notice, its stark black letters a stark contrast to the opulent room. Due to multiple severe health code violations, this establishment poses an imminent threat to public health. Dubois stammered. "What?" "No, this is a misunderstanding. You can't." His words were hollow, lacking any conviction, as the shocked murmurs of his diners filled the void. Dubois scrambled to his feet, his hands flailing. "Dr. Caldwell, please! My reputation! My passion! This is a mistake! A misunderstanding! You don't understand what this means," he pleaded, his voice cracking with desperation. Lena watched him, her expression unreadable, her mind replaying his earlier arrogance, his dismissive glare, his thinly veiled threats. "Misunderstanding, chef?" she replied, her voice steady, firm. "Was it a misunderstanding when you dismissed me as a casual diner? Or when you threatened my career for simply doing my job?" She paused, letting her words hang in the air, a sword of truth hanging over his head. "Respect, Chef Dubois, is something you show to everyone, especially those tasked with protecting the public. You chose to disregard it. Now, you must face the consequences of that choice." As Lena turned to leave, her team already moving to secure the premises, Dubois made one last, desperate lunge. "You'll regret this! I have connections!" "You'll be sorry!" he shrieked. But his words were swallowed by the sudden, urgent chatter of the diners, now rising from their tables in confusion and alarm. Lena didn't even glance back. Isabella Rossi, the restaurant manager, stood by the kitchen door, watching Dubois' meltdown with a complex mix of sadness and grim relief. Her eyes met Lena's for a fleeting moment, a silent acknowledgement. Outside, the flash of news cameras erupted, illuminating the chaos, as the health department team began to seal the grand doors of Fleur Sauvage, transforming it into a monument to arrogance and neglect. Moments later, a small crowd of kitchen and dining staff gathered outside, their faces etched with confusion and worry. Their jobs, their livelihoods, vanished in an instant. Isabella, her shoulders slumped, approached Lena, who was giving instructions to her team. "Dr. Caldwell," Isabella said, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you, truly." Lena offered a gentle, empathetic nod. "I understand this is difficult," she replied, her voice softer now, devoid of its earlier severity. "We have resources available through the Department for Job Assistance. Please reach out. You deserve to work in a place that values integrity and safety." It was a bittersweet moment, the cost of justice evident, but Lena's compassion shone through. The news channels exploded. Overnight, the story of Fleur Sauvage became a national sensation. Headlines screamed of health violations, celebrity chef Antoine Dubois' arrogance, and the quiet health inspector who brought his empire crashing down. Social media feeds were ablaze with outrage, debates about food safety, and a resounding call for accountability from elite establishments. The public, tired of perceived untouchability, latched on to Dr. Lena Caldwell's story. They hailed her as a hero, the underestimated health inspector whose integrity shone brighter than any Michelin star. Her name trended, a symbol of justice served, proving that no one, no matter how powerful, was above the law. And what of Chef Antoine Dubois? The culinary god quickly became a pariah. His Michelin stars were revoked, his restaurants sealed, and eventually auctioned off. Legal actions for gross negligence piled up, threatening to strip him of any remaining assets. The glossy magazines that once fawned over him now ran scathing exposés, detailing years of corner-cutting and intimidation. Shunned by the culinary world, his phone silent, Dubois was left alone in a dilapidated apartment, surrounded by empty champagne bottles and the ghost of his former glory. His arrogance had not just cost him his restaurant, it had consumed his entire life, leaving behind a bitter, ruined man. Meanwhile, back at the health department, Dr. Lena Caldwell's quiet triumph was recognized. Commendations poured in from superiors, city officials, and a grateful public. Marcus Thorne, her supervisor, beamed with pride. "Lena," he said, shaking her hand firmly, "you didn't just do your job, you reaffirmed what public service truly means. Your unwavering commitment, your integrity, it's inspiring." Lena, ever humble, offered a small, calm smile. She simply nodded, acknowledging the praise. But her gaze was already fixed on the stack of new inspection reports on her desk. For her, the job was never about accolades, but about ensuring public safety, one meticulous inspection at a time. But the story wasn't just about the downfall of an arrogant chef. It was also about redemption. Isabella Rossi, freed from the toxic environment of Fleur Sauvage, found a new beginning. She secured a position as a manager at a bustling, ethical local restaurant, one that prioritized its staff and its customers with equal respect. Here, her skills were valued, her input genuinely heard, and her conscience finally clear. She worked happily, contributing to a team that valued integrity above all else. Isabella's journey proved that even when complicit in a flawed system, choosing integrity can forge a path to a better, more fulfilling future. So remember, this isn't just a story about a health inspector and a chef. It's a powerful reminder that true excellence demands integrity, and arrogance, no matter how celebrated, will always lead to its own downfall. Dr. Lena Caldwell, a woman dismissed and underestimated, proved that quiet authority, meticulous professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to what is right can dismantle even the most entrenched corruption. Never judge a book by its cover, because the person you look down on today might just be the one holding you accountable tomorrow. If you found Lena's story inspiring, hit that like button and share where you're watching from. And make sure to subscribe for more stories where justice comes full circle.